In focus. Click the links for Odysee, Coffee, BitChute, or to join the channel for icons and feet pictures. Why are you supporting Disney at all? Disney's Epstein Island ride. First of all, why are you supporting the filth at Disney in any capacity? Part of winning the culture war is fighting the culture war. You have to actually take part in it. It's taking back the culture and not participating in their filth and degeneracy. Disney or Netflix repeatedly F you in the A. Stop paying them to be insulted. Unless, you're into that kind of thing. But most of us aren't. I'm not saying if you take your family there, the mouse is going to gangbang them. But you're supporting very bad people. And as it turns out, some of them actually will gangbang your family. There was an article I saw yesterday about 17 of the Disney employees who were predators of a sort. Then I went back today to find the article, and it turns out there's a whole list of articles, like if you search Disney plus that keyword, Disney has a history of that. This is not Walt's Disney. Modern Disney has been taken over by Luciferian-worshipping goblins. Lizard people. All that family-friendly stuff started to die about 20 years ago. Star Wars fans excited to experience Disney's upcoming Star Wars. I would stop right there. Star Wars fans? Are there fans of the old stuff? Yeah, sure. I mean, is anyone excited? People are not excited about Disney's version of Star Wars. They're excited about just some experience, just doing something, getting out of the house. That's a whole different vibe, and it matters, as I will get into in a second. So Disney artists have snuck in silly messages in the animation for a very long time, but it wasn't some deep Freemason, Illuminati, Dan Brown level stuff. They would put 666 on a door address, but because the bad guy was there, it was, a little bit of forecasting for kids. It wasn't nefarious. You're making the association that, yes, 666 is associated with a bad character. Not a big deal. Or they would do things a little bit more creepy, like they would have an upskirt shot of an adult Disney princess. It's dumb and it's degenerate, and it doesn't belong in a kid's cartoon, don't get me wrong. But most kids don't even notice that kind of stuff. It's gross, but it's just not a big deal. I mean, when I was a kid, I can't speak for everybody. It's like I wouldn't have thought anything of it. It just would have been nothing to me because it wouldn't have clicked. It wouldn't have been interesting. It wouldn't have been gross. It wouldn't have been anything. It's like the adults. It means more to adults than I think it does to kids. But I'm not saying it shouldn't. Obviously, it shouldn't be in a kid's cartoon. But it's not like that's not the most nefarious things they're doing. A lot of what they did with putting these Illuminati messages in the background, that just feels like them trolling people. Like, there's, like a superiority complex of a lot of left-wing artists they have over the middle America folks who they think are overly simplistic rubes, like the suckers, there's a sucker born every minute kind of thing. Who, so they push this vibe that like these middle Americans are just so are dumb and like they're not as sophisticated as these coastal elites. And then you look at what the coastal elites are doing, you're like, oh god, these middle Americans are awesome. They're going to church every Sunday. They have a community. They're not kitty diddling cocaine sniffing Epstein Weinstein types. Yeah, the coastal elites really don't have the moral high ground on anything. So that kind of stuff is like, it feels like they're trolling people. It's all like an inside joke because there's a bunch of like artists are like the most immature adults who work there who think that they're being like delightfully wicked and subversive. Oh, we're pulling one over on them. Like, you guys are bad people who do bad things, and karma's a bitch. Or they write Mickey on the inside of a coffee cup so that the reflection looks like wicked. It's stupid stuff, and if you focus on that, it's like bait. You're going to look silly because Disney is actually doing things like race swapping any red-haired European character they can. That's the stuff to focus on. What is more dehumanizing than having one of the most powerful corporate entities on Earth erase you from existence, as their globalist partners are doing around the world? How degrading is it that they are artistically, digitally deleting you from this mortal coil, and they expect you to support them and buy their products. Buy a $200 lightsaber. Why on earth would I do? Hey, isn't diversity great? We've been not only replaced in everything, but when Mr. Blonde is, Mr. German or Englishman is in something, they're portrayed as the antagonist every time. That is what you want to focus on. That is the evil agenda, not 666, Illuminati, or even a beaver shot in the background. That kind of stuff, it's silly. Get ready for the pun. That kind of stuff might be a red herring to throw you off the scent. It shouldn't be in cartoons, and it's also a sign of the creeping degeneracy of alt-left permissiveness and oozing corruption that has invaded, great, valet parking, fabulous, invaded Disney. It doesn't matter if it's Disney, Blizzard, I almost pronounced that Biohazard, or, which is probably a better title, or Netflix. It seems like the rot starts at the top, infests the company with parasitical brain worms over the years. So the good people end up leaving, and they're replaced by more and more of these wormy SJWs who literally think trans kids and drag story hour is stunning and brave. It's not. Leave kids alone until they're 18. But for this crowd, 18 is like retirement age, because they don't just want to snuggle. They could go to an adult for that. In fact, you can find a willing partner if you want to act it out. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are whatever. But they don't want to just do that. They want to corrupt and convert children. Brainwashing is best done young. Disney is starting to spring so many leaks that they're having a hard time keeping things plugged. Disney Plus is allegedly screwing over actors, or at the very least, there is a miscommunication going on. Not returning phone calls is a sign of problems, whatever industry you're in. Scarlett Johansson isn't some ancillary character. It's Scarlett Johansson. Someone should be returning her representatives' calls the very same day. She should be able to call up somebody and have somebody take her call within 15 minutes. It's Scarlett Johansson. Even if it's something like you've got the four corners of a contract, but there was an oral promise, it's sloppy all the way around. Whatever you have an exchange of promises, you put it in a written contract so it can be enforced by a court or arbitration mediation team. It's like, how does a company fail? Slowly, then all at once. You have these little cascading failures that lead to a loss of confidence all the way around. You have slippery people at the top who set the command environment, and it trickles down. The business takes some losses, so money gets tight. People start taking shortcuts in checking backgrounds. Very important if you got people who are dealing with kids. You really want to check those backgrounds much more than adults dealing with adults. Those backgrounds you can skip over if you want. Dealing with kids, that's your priority number one. Next thing you know, you've got a company who've got weak points throughout the structure, so you're constantly spending management time fixing mistakes and firing and hiring new people, and then you have to spend time training them, and it's like all that costs time and money, and it starts eroding at the company. But you keep taking shortcuts until the whole thing starts to collapse. Then management will hire consulting efficiency experts to waste more money to come to the conclusion that the problem began at the top. It's management itself. So people were also talking about the luxury Disney experience, which is like $5,000 for a space hotel. And good for Disney to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. They've got 4 crappy films, don't forget Solo, which results in low toy sales and low theme park revenue. And people seem to forget they look at the movies revenue, and they seem to forget, oh yeah, there's clothing, there's toys, there's stickers, there's all kinds of crap that you add it up, you're like, oh my gosh, all that stuff made more money than the movies. You got comic book guys in Comicsgate who are they're selling comics. It's conceivable that they could have a toy line that would blow the doors off any possible comic sales. In fact, that's why people are putting toys out there. It's like you're hoping somebody looks at this toy and goes, "Oh, you know what? We could put this in a Walmart." It's like, "Oh, okay, here's a $20 $20 million toy contract. You get the idea. So, but with Disney Star Wars, their toy sales, all that crap was low. Their theme park was, what do they call it, underperforming. But then they built a ultra luxury experience for the wealthy, which is, well, I don't know if you'd have to be doing pretty well to want this, to be able to do this kind of experience. This is a good chunk of change, $5,000 plus travel costs. But people are going to go. They're absolutely going to go. They also thought the Disney movie sucked, because they did. They're not going for the movies. They're going just because it's an experience. It sounds fun. It's in the continental United States. People look at it, it's like, okay, it's safe for the family. It's like nothing's going to happen. You can afford it. You don't have to travel outside the States. It's not Las Vegas, so it doesn't have that kind of sleazy thing going on. It's actually a pretty smart idea for Disney. It's like half the reason people buy top-of-the-line Samsungs or Apple phones is so that they can tell people they've got a Samsung 10, and it's like, oh, it costs $1,200 or whatever. Like, a part of the reason people do anything is to impress other people. And once you get past 30, did I spell pass correctly? Passed. You start to care less about everything. And by 35, most people don't give two darns about impressing anyone whatsoever. In fact, if you could wear a bathrobe throughout the day, I have a friend of mine who's a famous photographer who wears a bathrobe and drinks quite a lot. Because by that time, you're either married or you're like permanently single. So you just care less and less. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, join the channel. You can get an icon, and go to Odysee, BitChute, or support my vitally important work on coffee. All right, guys, see you next episode.